Welcome to ZFG. I'm Krista, and joining me today is Freddy Brick and Carson Block. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good. You're getting better at this.
What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about fashion at MWC.
Well, listen, I don't know whether you mean T-shirts or shoes, but
should we talk about what we're?
Well, no, I don't want to talk about T-shirts.
Okay.
I want to talk about just the overreach of government and regulatory agencies. I want to talk about just how asinine the whole concept of, quote, marketing regulation, especially with private funds, has become. One example. Okay, so when a private fund manager, AKA hedge fund manager, talks to the media, they're coached. Don't use the word fund. Don't say that we have a fund that does X, Y, Z. You say we have a strategy. Strategy good, fund bad. And why is this? Because it's not a fully registered security, which reminds me of about 2 years ago when Cathy Wood, whose ARK funds are fully registered securities, actually wrote a letter in which she predicted the future returns of a share of ARK. Now, a bunch of us jumped on her on social media.
She was correct, though. She got the number right.
That's about it.
She forgot the minus sign.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it was pretty fucking impressive to be on the money with a 40% return.
To really be fair, it's it was a 5-year projection, and we're only 2 years out.
But it's tracking well.
It's yes, if there were a minus sign there, but she ended up deleting it. But it's just this is really fucking stupid. It always has in-house and outside counsel tied in knots. This quote, marketing of private funds. And, it's one of the things that's funny. It's the media is always trying to find out what are the returns of well-known hedge fund managers. Well, they're not allowed to say, but somehow, especially when the returns are good, those numbers always make it out to the media. So it's this regulatory regime, it is not geared to the 21st century. It's not geared to the modern media market. I really think there are problems with it in terms of the First Amendment. I mean, I get that commercial speech doesn't have absolute protection, but it gets asinine. And I feel whether it's with respect to marketing or other aspects of fund management or really the financial markets, I feel the problem is you have all these people who go to work every day at the SEC, other government regulatory agencies, and they wake up and they're what problem should I search for today? And, what solution, in air quotes, should I propose? And it's just, the job seems to suggest that you need to find problems and come up with more bullshit and rules and boxes to tick. So that's what I want to talk about, not T-shirts.
In fact, the only thing we don't want to talk about on this podcast are T-shirts.
Right.
Oh.
But there are some hardcore fashion. There is at least one hardcore fashion item I do want to discuss. And I think you do too. So why don't you take us to that?
You mean Freddy in general or
No, those fucking 1985 moon boots.
So
I was wearing them in 3rd grade.
Let's just set this up. About a couple of days ago, let's talk about what happened. I mean, this happens a lot, almost every week, every time he comes through the door. And I'm look at this guy. First of all, he thinks he's the shit.
There's always some weird shit on.
But there's always something, always, something that I haven't seen since.
Dude,
I'm the oldest person here at the front.
These are fucking drip. These are.
You got hold them up a little higher.
Yeah,
to the
gotta,
these are fucking drip.
Those are space boots,
Are these fabulous?
These are phenomenal.
And you know what I love? He rocks it. He's very secure with it. Everything else he wears, which some of the things are absolutely ridiculous.
A white T-shirt and jeans. Yeah, it's a really controversial one.
Well, with sauce stains on it, you think you're Ben Axler coming in with sauce on your shirt.
It's the worst thing. I was going very rarely do we have meetings where we don't want to we care what we look like. So I'm going to a meeting the other day.
Speak for yourself.
Halfway through the day, I'm half drinking coffee, looking at something. I spill it all down myself, and I'm fuck, I've actually like gotta change like a shirt or something. I had my wife put a t-shirt in an Uber for me because I'm like, there's no way that you can go to a meeting wearing like casual clothing. You can go to a meeting wearing like not cool clothing. But if you turn up at a meeting and you've got like a stain all down you, no one takes you seriously.
Well,
Okay,
but then again, there's the guy who like releases videos of short reports with stains all over his shirts and his chin and shit.
It's very true.
How about when we went to an event, a pretty classy event in New York City, and like I'm introducing you to my other brother, and you have a see-through shirt that's white.
Oh,
Do you
dude,
remember
that was.
And I saw your like male nipples.
That was a fuck up. So
we need
okay,
to
so
be-
So
We need
like,
to
hang on.
be-
I want to
know,
get back
we
to
don't-
Freddy's shoes here, and I want to
Where's
show.
mine?
I want to show solidarity
No,
with
I
Freddy on the
know.
shoes.
Yeah.
So if you're unfortunate enough to be listening to this versus watching it,
Mine.
Krista and I are putting water wings on our shoes.
No, because we want to be like you. This
these
got
are cool.
depleted. No, they
These
are
are
Yeah,
cool.
so, dude,
They
so
are
are,
cool.
so are water wings on my feet. They're like bright
They're fabulous.
orange water wings. Now, hang on. It says to be worn on the upper arms only.
Well,
I mean, look. Do your boots have that warning also?
They don't. But
They should.
Like, look, these are cool. Would I
They're
get
so
these?
similar.
Would I get these in like a fire orange? Probably
A
not.
fire
It's a little.
orange?
It's a little too much for me. But these are subtle. They're extremely comfortable.
subtle.
Also, because Austin doesn't have that much cold weather, I look forward to the opportunity to wear like
Moon
you know
boots.
with
moon
the
boots
socks that
or-
are polka dot and pink and
these are great.
green,
Son,
like a clown would
there
wear.
comes a time in every man's life when he's too old to chase the latest trend or non-trend. And you got some extra runway because it was like when Superman left Krypton and got
Right.
to Earth, right? You've got a British accent that gives you a little bit more runway, but
Just a little
at
bit.
your age,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now
I think it's you
All
got to
right.
don the Maui gyms and just get rid of these fucking moon boots, man.
Dude, just because you've ditched the Maui gyms finally to rock some Persol sunglasses in order that your net worth to sunglass spend ratio is slightly more favorable, like, oh man,
Isn't it per soul, by the way?
Oh, it's Persol.
I think so.
Yeah, possibly. Anyway, so
Well,
we're
I
at the
think
cutting edge of high fashion in all regards at Muddy Waters.
our T-shirts.
We're not talking about
Yeah,
t-shirts.
Oh.
we're not talking about we're not talking about the t-shirts.
I keep on bringing it up.
Yeah, stop
I'm
it.
horrible.
Yeah.
I know.
Stop it. I
Don't even look at them.
Yeah.
I won't.
I mean, like you might get sanctioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't look at
I
them.
don't know what to look at. Okay. There's a lot of things to talk about. Can we go talk about scientific reasons why going to Mars would suck?
Yeah.
I just want to go. That's
Yeah.
a meaty item, and it
Right.
Car-
This is
has
good.
Carson
So,
chomping at the bits over here.
well, it does. And look, it's one of the things that I think I've said before is that it does distress me how the reporting in the New York Times has gone down the toilet steadily. But the science section, at least, as I came across this article, still has some good shit. And this is pretty relevant to Tesla, Elon Musk, SpaceX, this idea that we want to send people to Mars. Because I've always thought this is bullshit. Like I've got a young kid, and when he was learning about space, and there's this thing on the Earth called the magnetosphere that protects us from a lot of solar radiation. So let's talk about what space is like and what space travel is like. Okay, first of all, if you happen to find yourself outside of Earth's atmosphere without a spacesuit, you'll pass out and die in a matter of seconds
That's so
from
sad.
hypoxia. But while that's happening, and I didn't know this, all of your fluids would start to bubble because they're in the process of turning into gas.
Okay.
And that's not caused by temperature. That's caused by the lack of pressure outside.
Quick question on that then. When you do die, obviously, I mean, my main point of reference for science is South Park. And they have that episode where everyone craps themselves after they die.
Oh, yes.
Would you not crap yourself?
Well, it might be, you might just release a giant fart. I don't know. Because like fluids are turning to gas. I don't know what the solids are doing. But they're freezing. So I don't know. This is I'll send a
There's
letter
lot
to
of
the
notes here.
to the editor here. So anyway,
I've never
on
seen
Mars,
that kind of work.
the gravity on Mars is a third of the gravity on Earth, and this becomes important because we are adapted specifically for the gravity on Earth.
It'd be way easier for you to lose that 10 pounds you were trying to lose, though, Krista.
Shut up.
Just weigh yourself on Mars.
Obviously, that's what I'm thinking.
Let's talk about traveling to Mars, which would take like 9+ months. Now, there's
I have
only
some time.
so the International Space Station, all the space stations that have ever been launched have been within the Earth's magnetosphere.
Yeah.
And so the only astronauts that have ever traveled beyond the magnetosphere are the 12 astronauts who are part of the Apollo program and have gone to the moon. And so that's basically a 1-week round trip outside the magnetosphere. They have died of heart disease at rates 4 to 5 times higher than other astronauts who did not travel beyond the magnetosphere. And that's just after 1 week. And that's because specifically the radiation to which you're exposed when you're beyond the magnetosphere is this large particle radiation that travels at such a high speed that nothing that we've sent up in space can shield it. Not the spacecraft, not the space suits.
Okay, but
So
I've
they're
got a
exposed to-
solve for that. Just
Okay.
on the side of the rocket, you know how like on the side of a packet of cigarettes, it's like smoking will kill you and then it's a horrible picture? Just on the side of the rocket, put a massive sign saying like, if you actually fucking get there and come back, you're going to
I'll
die
die
much
when
faster anyway. And I think that's kind of in the world of regulation
Kind of
we
like a
live in.
warning.
Yeah, just a warning. Just
Like
a big...
when you
Like
cigarette
sign a
warning.
waiver, I'm
Yeah.
okay with this. Yeah, like, I mean, this would be perfect for, regulation.
Makes sense to me.
I mean, and like you can market it to the general public probably, more easily than you can market a private fund. Seriously, like space travel beyond the magnetosphere, I'm sure there's less restrictions on marketing that than there
Really,
are
of course.
marketing.
I mean, dude, Chamath took that piece of shit Virgin Galactic public and had zero trouble marketing that to morons.
Versus a fund that, has annualized net returns of 16% since inception. But that's hypothetical, theoretical.
Totally hypothetical.
A strategy fund. But, okay, so then without gravity, like with being in microgravity, as they call it, really fucks you up. So your blood normally when you're awake goes down to your lower body, right? Because of gravity. But in space, astronauts have gotten permanent optic nerve damage because of the pressure. Since there's too much blood in their upper extremities for too much time. Now that also often causes congestion and messes up your sense of smell. But that's okay because apparently the ISS smells very strongly of body odor and farts. Literally. Okay, so farts. Why? Well, because without gravity, the gases produced when you digest food, they don't rise to the top. So therefore, if you try to belch out the gas, a lot of times an astronaut will actually vomit. So they don't actually want to burp. They just wait to fart it out.
I know, isn't sound.
Now the body odor, you can't shower in space.
Well, let's just send the French up.
Well, that'd be like the worst. The French get their own space station. Right? The ISS, except for French, there's the French module. And yeah, you can smell that through the vacuum of space. But the other thing is you have to, as an astronaut, exercise for over 2 hours a day just to keep your muscle tone, or some muscle tone. But the problem that creates is sweat. So you have to constantly be wiping yourself so that the sweat doesn't bead and float off and like short out equipment or end up in your colleague's nose or something like that. So that's also a little bit rough.
How do you even exercise without gravity?
Well, and I mean, they're like, I don't know, like, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how they do it, maybe resistance bands.
Huh.
But the other thing is, in terms of the loss of bone density, like this is some crazy shit. So elderly people on Earth will lose about, I think, 0.2 to 0.5% of their bone density per year. A young, healthy astronaut will lose 0.5% of bone density per month in space.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like a serious fucking problem. Now here's another one that sucks. Because without gravity, the urine in your bladder is not pulled down, so it doesn't signal to your urethra that you have to go. So a lot of times, I guess, astronauts just end up suddenly pissing themselves. Or even worse, they realize, oh, it's been a long time since I pissed, and they're not able to, so they have to catheterize themselves.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I gotta tell you,
Like
this sounds fucking
is
horrible. Let's send that anti-Semite prick Elon Musk there immediately. Like, this sounds so
bad.
horrible.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta tell you, this is what every school kid who's dreaming of becoming an astronaut
They should read this.
should fucking read. Because
This
I would pay to not go into space.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely.
Sounds like prison.
And so then
Worse.
there's another question that was brought up. It's like, well, you know, what if on a long-term mission, you know, 9 months each way to Mars, someone gets sick, you know, like say
You're
appendicitis. So do we send a surgeon along? But what if the surgeon is the one who gets appendicitis? And this brought up a scenario that actually happened in 1961. The Soviets established a base down in Antarctica, and they had a surgeon there. He's 27 years old. He got appendicitis, and he had to give himself an appendectomy. And like at first he was using mirrors that I guess were held by his colleagues, but because it looks backwards, it fucked him up. He ended up having to do it by feel, cutting out his own fucking appendix by feel. Yeah. Now some people might say, well,
I want to read this article. This was in the New York Times.
This is a great article. This is in the New York Times science section. Now, if there were major surgery in space, there's a real risk that the patient, their insides would end up floating out of their body, which I'm pretty sure is
I mean, major
bad.
surgery, you mean like a breast augmentation?
Clearly.
You don't want the old implant floating around, man. So it might end up between like a couple slices of bread and somebody swallows it. But then, you know, in theory, you can create gravity in space by having a wheel, by building a wheel. But the thing is, right now, it costs about, per pound of payload, it costs about $10,000 per pound that you want to send up into space. So that's why everything that goes on a spaceship, it's like, you know, it has to be there. There's no like superfluous stuff. And so then, I love this, you know, give the New York Times credit for, you know, not being like weirdly woke in this one. It's a truism of our species that the moment we encounter a new and challenging environment, a mountaintop, say, or an airplane bathroom, we feel compelled to find out what will happen if we engage in coitus there.
A mountaintop, per se.
Naturally, then, as soon as the first billionaires check into the first space hotels, they'll be thinking about becoming the inaugural members of the 250-mile high club. So they point out that there have been about 700 astronauts that have been up and back over the years. Don't know if anybody's had sex in space. Apparently, there are good indications, this is a quote, there are good indications that erection and lubrication are not inhibited in space. But yeah, I mean, you got to...
Are not inhibited.
Right. But again, like think about the sweat and how you have to wipe that off. I mean, you really wouldn't want to be like, you know, here's like a tit shot here. But you know, and God forbid somebody get pregnant, right? Because
it'd be really bad.
Because like going back that conversation about the radiation and what it seems to have done just within, you know, 1 week of exposure. So anyway, yeah, I gotta say, I mean, this whole thing about, you know, humanity's futures on Mars, I mean, that sounds like complete fucking bullshit to me.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, if we'd have just stopped the episode right here, I would have we'd leave viewers thinking, hey, Earth's pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
that sounds horrific.
No matter how
actually
badly
concur.
we fuck this planet up,
Yeah.
it will be nowhere near as bad as going to Mars.
I'd rather
being on
build my
Mars.
dream home next to a Shanxi fucking coal mine than that. I mean, that just sounds terrible.
Yeah, like at least your insides aren't going to float out
Yeah.
of you if you have to have, you know, an appendectemy. So yeah. Anyway, I thought this was super interesting.
Totally
So the title of
interesting.
the
Actually,
article
I wanna
just
read that.
for anybody interested in looking it up. It's called "The Bodily Indignities of the Space Life." So, great article.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Shit.
All right. Bring it back to Earth, Krista.
that's not where she resides.
How I used a vibrating sex toy to beat a chess grandmaster. You sent us this.
Isn't that old?
No, so
I thought it
this
was
is
old,
okay.
too.
This
It's
is a
been going on for a long
continuation.
time.
No, this is a continuation.
Oldest trick in the book.
So someone,
Why are you so fixated
because of
with
this
it?
story, because I read the
Because
Daily Mail.
the chess part.
Yeah.
The chess part's what's so
So
salacious.
someone, there was this story out there about this guy who like did do this apparently, or there was like a question as to whether they did or didn't do it. So some like, you know, mid-level decent chess player basically was like, all right, let's put this to the test and see if like you actually could do it, and if you could get like what would the genuine implications be? Like, you know, you sitting there fucking twitching uncontrollably.
So what happened?
So he was able to get some signaling done. He did beat the guy. Like the guy was.
Did he also beat Magnus Carlsen?
It wasn't Magnus Carlsen. It was some other like pretty serious.
I've already lost to a sex toy once. I will not do it again.
He basically came up with the conclusion that like it would require an inordinate amount of practice, and was, you know, there was some moments of like real discomfort and.
Well, you know. It depends on what you like.
I know, like, is it discomfort?
I mean,
or is
it might
kind
be
of
more like, you know, I got to make sure I don't like blow my load here in the, you know, first few moves, because
like,
this is really
rook
painful.
To night 3! Like,
whoa.
Yeah. So no, that I thought was important for people to know, that if you are considering either being an astronaut or an aspiring chess champion as a child and cheating, there are practical limits to some of this stuff.
Well, if you start on the sex toys as a child, you'd probably adapt to it a little bit better.
Dude, if you started as a sex toy as a child, you probably just, you know, growing up in Northern California and being educated, and you're like 7.5 years old kind of thing.
I thought we were going to get an archdiocese joke.
Oh,
here.
No. They wouldn't consider waiting that long. Are you kidding?
Okay. Next, is another item South Korea to ban short selling of stocks until June 2024.
Yeah, so it's interesting. South Korea, I think, is the most dysfunctional developed market on the fucking planet. So
I wasn't gonna.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of stock markets, I would say it does not behave as a developed stock market. Market stock market should behave.
So a few things I wanted to touch on, because they are looking once again. So they've just gotten rid of their short sale ban. The previous excuse was they had a short sale ban because of COVID, and they were the last country in the world to remove it. And now they're like, all right, well, we really want to find a reason to put one back on. And I was aware that the retail participation in South Korea was high, but I was not aware it is as high as it is. So according to the FT, 2/3 of turnover on the Kosdaq is retail, which it's a pretty liquid market, right? It's not like Vietnam, where we're not launching a fund next year.
Strategy.
But it's, you know, it's a real market, and it's a real country, and people consider it real, but like 2/3 is just retail. And so one of the reasons that they are looking to really reinstate this ban is it's just very popular with the electorate. And I was talking to another short seller last night, and he was saying like, oh yeah, I'd love to do Korea one day. And I'm just like, look, I think two things would happen. I think the first thing is...
You'd lose money and you'd lose money.
Well, I think you would... I would say it is a 98% chance that you are investigated by the regulator. Like I cannot think
98%.
I cannot think of a higher likelihood of being investigated by a regulator than any country in the world than Korea. The question I had is what percentage chance on the stock being limit up, because all these like crazy Korean retail, they literally go on these message boards and they're like, it's a fraud, fuck the foreigners. Like, it's insane.
Like, get the foreigners, buy it up. Oh yeah, they've been doing that for decades. Yeah.
But what's crazy is if you look at some of the most bizarre retail, that we've ever kind of come across, I think Nanox was one of them, right? Where I think SKTel had invested some money into it, and so they had
I think the chairman got like a very nice deal
for himself.
Yeah, for himself on Nanox shares.
And you know, I feel like you were constantly getting like Korean retail bitching and moaning at you on Twitter in a way that like...
Yeah, but to be fair, like that was the time, I mean, that was late 2020, early 2021. There was retail of all stripes, shapes, and sizes. Like,
Right,
you
but
know,
it
every day
takes-
DMing me, you know,
Right,
like, you're
but-
going to prison, motherfucker.
But that
you
was
know.
in the middle of their day. These dudes would have been doing it like, I'm just gonna stay awake till like 11 o'clock to fuck with Carson, right? Like, it's a very weird person that wants to spend their evenings doing that.
You know, and it's like, it's just, as we've often discussed, maybe not here, but in more, you know, intellectual fora.
There is no more intellectual
know.
fora than
There is
him.
no more intellectual,
Not for
you know,
me.
a forum than this. That's
No.
true. So less intellectual fora. I mean, these short bands don't do anything in terms of improving the price of stocks. It just decreases liquidity. Like, this has been empirically shown time and time and time and time again. And, you know, I guess what I'm just trying to square is like how these people who make such great washing machines are this dumb with the stock market. Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. So, if
Well, you know the other
if you have an
country that
answer,
makes... Hold
feel
on.
free to DM me along with a prison threat.
Do you know who else makes great fucking washing machines
Who?
and has retarded stock market? The Germans.
I was just going to say the
Oh.
Germans.
Yeah.
Dude,
Actually,
this
they
might be like a
actually-
proprietary indicator along some of our other politically incorrect ones.
Shit.
Dude, the washing machine,
The Germans do make a great
Damn.
washing machine.
Bosch, I mean, that's some fucking serious appliance get up.
Yeah.
They're great.
I think I'd take
They're
an
quiet.
LG over a Bosch though.
No way. Bosch
Bosch is
superior.
I mean,
Okay.
now Miele.
Is
Miele
Miele
is-
German as well? Yeah.
I think it is.
I think Miele's German.
Or is it Italian?
No.
Then it wouldn't work.
It would look really nice.
It would look nice, but it
Yeah,
would
I
not.
we've
had
got like
both
an
Bosch.
Alessi, I think, toaster,
An
and it
Alessi
looks
is-
nice and it works just the same as the other one. But my wife wanted it, so we got it.
And then there's like Sub-Zero, which is probably owned by private equity.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know. All right, cool. Well, hey, please put down your toy and
Yeah.
take us to the next topic.
Yes. No, I wanted to. During an Ape Fest event in Hong Kong, vision and skin injuries believed to be caused by unprotected UV exposure to the stage lights,
Yes.
from the stage lights.
So,
First of all, Ape Fest, is that a very popular?
so do you know what an ape is?
Yes.
No, I don't think you.
I don't think you.
Not the kind from the zoo. It's not that.
Because I wouldn't have thought like a bunch of.
No, I know you don't
Yeah.
know. No, it's like the AMC like
Apes.
shareholders, like the meme
Yeah.
stock. They call
Okay.
themselves apes. Apes not leaving.
Because to be clear, I wouldn't have
Oh.
thought it was funny if a bunch of like primates,
animals,
yeah,
yeah.
like had
That's
this.
what I
Well,
wanted to
humans are
talk
primates.
about.
True,
Right.
not those ones.
Non-human primates.
Yeah.
Oh.
In Hong Kong, a bunch of these,
shedding light
and I
there.
have my own word for
No
them.
pun intended.
I call them retards. So a bunch of these retards went to some event, and I think they were so busy, like
Retarding out.
yeah, looking up at like the sun, and a lot of them are pretty pale because they're probably pretty high Venn diagram overlap with incels. So you know they're like going outside in the sun for the
Well,
first
plus
time.
they're Asian, so they don't want to have dark skin because they don't want to look like peasants.
Yeah, that's
So-
true.
Can I, after we're
This is
done
true.
with this, tell you what I really thought the Ape Fest event
Oh,
was?
interrupt and go ahead.
No,
Yes.
I need
No,
more to
come
drink
on.
for that.
You thought it was like a sex thing, like
No, I'll
there's like
tell
a
you
bear
later.
fest
No,
where
no,
like big hairy
no,
dudes,
no.
like the hairier, bigger
I
dudes than
can't-
bears.
Say it right now, but yeah, no.
But you could
I
say
would
it in a few minutes.
Yeah, we're not continuing until you tell us what you really thought that
No,
was.
do you remember that show, like something of the apes or something?
Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I thought it was like a festival.
Oh, you mean kind of like the
Like
the Star,
furries?
like the Star Trek thing, the Star Trek thing, like Planet of the Apes. All got fucking burned by the UV lamps.
I swear to God, I swear.
Shit. Who would I feel less bad for, or
Like,
who
of
would
course, in
I? Sorry,
Hong
who would
Kong,
I
they
actually
celebrate
come closer to
this.
feeling bad for?
Wait, she said, of course. in
AMC bag holders or people who go to like a Planet of the Apes fest?
No,
Like-
I know. I was
Listen, I'm not into
Who's-
Planet of the Apes, but I.
Who's less
little
worthy
nugget.
of getting sunburned indoors by fucked up stage lights.
I
Who's
always
less worthy
found
of
Planet
that?
of the Apes really weird. I would definitely
Yeah, it's
say
creepy
the
as
Ape
shit.
Fest dudes deserve to be burned at the stake. I
Well,
mean,
can you see like there being a festival of Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, I can.
Especially in Hong Kong. I'm just saying.
Listen, I'm sure there is.
yeah.
Like it's so
I mean, I
much
don't know about
so,
NHK,
like,
but I'm sure there is in America. I mean, we're a lot bigger than Hong Kong.
Right. I thought like
I'm sure there
I thought that
is.
show was big in Asia. No?
I don't know. I mean, they pirate every single fucking movie that's ever been released, so there's no good data on this.
Huh.
But
I feel like
I mean,
all right,
Mark
so,
Wahlberg obviously was a draw when he did like some of these Planet of the Apes movies.
Right.
Yeah.
And he
All
went
right,
beyond
well-
That's what happens when you go beyond the magnetosphere, dude.
Sorry.
You wake up as a fucking ape. That's real cellular DNA damage.
All right, so sorry.
Christy, you forgot my business idea.
Oh, I did. I didn't know you wanted me to talk about it. Or you wanted to talk about it.
I do
here.
want to talk about my business
Okay.
idea. So,
You didn't
I
say
was
let's
out
add it to
in our-
ZFG. You're like, I have a great business idea.
Okay, so I have this amazing business idea. I was having dinner with a friend, and we were saying how cool Austin is to live in, and he was like, "Oh, what else should I do here?" And I was like, "Well, I usually,
There's not much to do.
Right, there's barbecue, there's a walk around the lake, and I was like,
it's a good
people want
weekend place.
yeah, people want to kind of go shooting, I guess, because it's Texas, and I was saying how like shooting ranges always make me feel a bit uncomfortable because it's all very professional, but at the end of the day, you are standing next to someone, you have no fucking idea who they are, and they're carrying like a semi-automatic weapon, and I don't know if they're just having a bad day, like what stops them turning around and just shooting me in the head? Like
But
really
that's
nothing.
Pretty much all of Texas. I mean, like,
It is, but so it just kind of like there's this
Right.
tense energy there.
Yeah.
Like people are pretty distant. They're they're not they're not in each other's personal space. So I was like, there's definitely a vibe. Now, what I was thinking, and then he was like talking about, oh, would you ever consider getting a gun? And I was like, no, for a bunch of reasons. I was like, plus, to be honest, man, I'm English, and so with just a glass or a
What?
bottle by the bed, like we're very, very capable of doing some real damage
Shit,
to
yeah.
anyone. Yeah, pool cue, a chair, like
Yeah.
that is the Englishman's weapon of choice. And so the idea I had, which is for people who are English, who come to Texas, who feel uncomfortable about guns, is a shooting range, but instead of using guns, you use sort of paraphernalia that's close to you in a pub, okay? Because that is what English people love to fight with. And the thing is, this ties in very nicely
like a
with
beer bottle.
a bottle, a pool cue,
Yeah.
fucking dildo, whatever you got around you,
Dildo.
so like you could have targets of like the
Darts.
opposition.
A dart.
Yeah,
That's
dart.
what I was thinking.
Like you could have
oh, yeah, you could do
targets
some
of the
major
opposition
damage with
football
darts.
team,
If you're
whatever
drunk
you
enough.
want. I mean, it could be like a pretty fun thing to do. And it ties in really nicely with our idea for the World Cup of hooliganism, because currently they don't have a safe forum to practice in.
They don't?
And I want to make sure that for the most despotic World Cup that's ever going to fucking take place in the history of Earth, which is hard to top Qatar, but inshallah, we have awarded it to Saudi Arabia. I want to make sure that like the hooligans go are fucking practice, because the guys that are going to be policing in Saudi Arabia, they're going to be hardcore. So I want to make sure that the hooligans are at the top of their game, and
Yeah.
Well,
because they're not going to be able to drink, I think it's important that they can practice some of these skills sober.
oh yeah, well that's true. They're going to have to practice sober, but look, they're already obviously gearing up for it. With in the UK, we see the soccer hooligans
That is
as
true.
like Western civilization's last line of defense against like the Hamas
I
sympathizers.
know, dude. It's
you know.
actually just like amazing what's taking place. Is like the West is trying to get its head around what the fuck's going on, and like you're looking at the football hooligans and you're thinking, yeah, they're going to defend liberal democracy. Like, but
They are. They're the ones doing it.
I know.
You know,
It's-
yeah. Unfortunately, they're getting a little bit old, a little bit long in the
it's-
tooth. So
Although I think what a lot of liberals who are protesting to support Hamas are finding out is actually you can still hit pretty hard when you're about 55, 60. Like, there's kind of that old man muscle that, like, 23-year-old holding up a poster like, you know, we support Hamas, LGBTQ. Like, you just don't develop that kind of muscle. So
yeah, but you know what it is? It's the it's how quickly you get exhausted, right?
True.
So I mean, you can hit hard for, I don't know, whatever period of time, but you know, the 20-something-year-old can keep throwing the punches and the kicks longer than you can.
Not the liberals.
Well, yeah, but the actual, like, some of these Hamas sympathizers are kind of like, they look like they're kind of Hamas
that's true.
people in training.
That's
So,
true.
you know, or who maybe have had some Hamas training, who
Yeah.
fuck knows. But anyway, yeah, that's, I mean, but yeah, whoever, I've been so fascinated by soccer hooliganism culture for years. Like, to me, they're just like, they're among the most fascinating people because it's so fucking retarded, right?
Yeah.
It's almost
I feel like
as retarded
short
as like wanting to go to Mars, apparently is. And
That's so
I
crazy.
mean,
Yeah,
I've heard
but-
the buses, when they bust them down, don't smell as farts as much, but there is still a lot
There's
of
the body
vomiting and body odor.
well, especially in the French hooligan bus.
Oh,
Well, you know, plus all the blood that gets spilled by the French.
True.
The French are not. I can't imagine the French are good soccer hooligans. But
No.
this is the tragedy of us never having been able to stage the World Cup of hooliganism, because I think the French should be eliminated first round by like pretty much
Oh, do
anybody
you know what? And
competent.
I bet they'd be eliminated by like a shit country as well, right? Like some, like Macedonia that's got like, you know, 11 people of above the age of 25, or the Faroe Islands, like one of these countries that like barely, you know, because like you
And we
always
don't know
have
our
these things,
countries.
right? Where like the Faroe Islands or Gibraltar like get to play England in some arranged friendly. And they always have these stats about like, you know, Harry Kane earns £300,000 a week, and the entire Faroe Islands football team earns $300,000 a year. Like, actually, the guy who's the goalkeeper is a Bosch, you know, washing machine fitter, and it's like, that's the kind of country that's going to
LG.
knock. That's the kind of country that's going to knock France out of the World Cup if you're going to.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, anybody they compete against in the first round is just going to be like, after I get past the body odor, friends, like, nah, it's just not intimidating.
Yeah.
okay. I can't say.
Well,
Hedge funds hunting for sunken treasure.
okay. So this is really a shout out. So there was an
Okay.
article
Oh,
today.
actually, you just sent this out.
Yeah.
let's try it.
Actually, Freddie, do me a favor and grab from behind you the book "Dead in the Water."
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to read
So-
a passage. Excuse
Yeah.
me.
No, this is so I interviewed on Zeros when this book came out,
Oh,
Dead in the
yeah.
Water. This was one of my favorite books of 2022 in terms of like how the world sausage is really made, and it nominally focuses on this hijacking off the coast of Somalia, but really gets into the nitty gritty of the world's insurance industries and maritime shipping and just how it's totally fucking lawless. So anyway, this book is by Matthew Campbell and Kit Shellel, who are both Bloomberg
Who
reporters.
you interviewed?
Right. And so Kit Shellel just published a Bloomberg article today that, at least on the terminal, and it might be different on the website, but it's called Lord of the Deep. And it's about
Lord of the Deep?
Lord of the Deep,
Okay.
and it's about treasure hunting for money. And so it turns out that there are a couple hedge fund dudes, serious guys,
Oh my God, I
in
know.
London who
I printed
are
out this
who've
article.
been financing this
Did you read this?
treasure hunting. So they're both at Marshall Wace. One of them is one of the founding partners, last name Wace, so one of the
Okay.
name partners. But the guy who really is doing this is Anthony Clake.
Yeah.
And it's
crazy.
it's really interesting because there are a lot of people who object to what they're doing, right? So they're spending money. There's apparently just, huge number of shipwrecks, the bottom of the oceans, many of which would have really valuable items on board. And so there are a number of governments and individuals, archaeologists who object to them doing this. And when I was reading this, I was struck by,
What are they actually? They're like, they're locating the vessels and going.
They locate the
Okay.
vessels. I mean, they've spent millions of dollars on the equipment, and they've got these remotely operated submersible vehicles that can go over
not the ones
6,000
that
No.
dude's selling.
No.
No.
that can go over 6,000 feet deep. They're remotely operated, robot arms. and they get, and they'll take stuff off the broken hulls and salvage it. And one of the major risks of this business, though, is that even if you're successful in salvaging, when you pull into port, they might board your ship and seize the stuff, depending on the jurisdiction. And, so there are a lot of people who object to this. And that actually made me think, I did see some parallels to what we do as activist short sellers, because, the critics are always carping like, oh, yeah, why do you have to, why do you get to make money because you find a fraud? So the people are saying the same thing. Like, why should you make money off of, these ancient treasures? It's like, well, because who the fuck else is going to do it?
Yeah.
Like, so when they go and they, recover stuff, some of it ends up in museums, others get sold and they make money off it. But again, like, if you're a government,
it's like treasure, or
some of it's gold coins,
like
silver bars, Ming vases, some of it's some of these things are like personal effects if there was somebody famous on board. But it's like, for governments that bitch about it, it's like, well, you're not getting ready to fund a fucking expedition to fill up your museum. So unless and until, like, just shut the fuck up. And it's kind of like, I felt the same, I feel the same thing. Like, Bloomberg ran this article about the whistleblower award that, it's reported I received. And, they quoted this one, like junior law professor who's doing the same thing as the guy at Columbia tried to do, which is, make tenure by, getting headlines, making shit up, being adverse to activist short sellers. And, like this, and this guy I'm referring to, this, newest, law professor, he's bitching that short sellers get paid, can get paid out by the SEC's whistleblower program. And it's like, well, what in the fuck have you ever done?
Well, firstly,
to try to identify a fraud.
Okay.
Well, first of all, he said, his quote was something like, I think taxpayers deserve to know when Carson Block gets $14 million of our money. Which it's like, hey, motherfucker, I didn't get taxpayer money. This comes only from the recovery of and he knows this because he's studied the program and he's written on it. So this guy's like basically lying through his fucking teeth when he says that, which, glad he's an esteemed member of the academy.
Yeah, or alternatively, he's just totally incompetent.
Well, he's
both.
Well, I think the incompetence is, it comes to this very dull, line of thinking that we can criticize the people who, for a profession, find frauds. We can criticize them because they do it, they do it for money. But it's like, but bro, step up to the plate. Do it for money, do it for free. Just step up to the fucking plate and do it. So many of our critics are just like the critics, of these, for-profit treasure hunters, in that they bitch about how they do it for money, but they're not going to step up and fund this and do this work themselves. So anyway, I feel like a little bit of a kinship with these guys.
What about this then? We start up our own non-treasure hunting finding business, and we just say we're going to clean up the ocean floor, okay? We get like, I don't know,
a lot of detritus on the ocean floor.
I'm thinking like Norges are probably immediately in for a couple $100 because it sounds good. We list the thing, and once in a while we accidentally find treasure, but because making profit is so disgusting and dirty,
the company will give all the profits away to us.
Yes.
The company
so
will
if
not
you
make
want to
a profit.
invest in this and feel good about doing absolutely sweet fuck all while having the
Sweet
dirty
fuck
profits shoveled over to us, we're in the market. So
we have no problem.
is it Nikolai Tengen who runs Norges now? So if you're watching Tengen, which you probably are because we're so influential, come on over.
But let me do you one better, because it's not right for you and me to receive all this money without doing anything charitable ourselves. So I pledge to take 5% of my earnings from this, 5% of my, it can be pre-tax, I'll get the deduction, and use it to train the next generation of soccer hooligans to defend Western civilization. That's what I'll do.
Okay. And I will take 5% of the amount of your 5%, and I'm just going to light it on fire because I fucking can. And there's no other reason.
Well, how about any of the treasure that's accidentally recovered from the ocean floor that's not able to be sold, and the museum that wants it's too far away? How about that just gets lit on fire? Like we'll have to like maybe use hair dryers on it first and make sure it's flammable, but then we light it on fire.
Done.
All right, great stuff. But anyway, I do recommend, if you haven't read it already, reading Dead in the Water by Kit Shallal.
It's good.
And this article.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for handing this to me, Krista.
Okay.
Really appreciate that.
What haven't we done?
The Wall Street Journal
piece on
FDIC boozing
yeah.
and strippers.
Now, wasn't this also? Is this a continuation? Because
listen,
yes, it is.
No, it is. No, it's not a continuation.
That's the SEC watching porn.
But I want, which that happened during the financial crisis. But I do want to state what should be the obvious, but. I don't know, like, why is everybody surprised by this?
I'm not
FDIC
surprised.
stands for Federal Dick. So, of course.
So my take on it was this. So it turns out that there's been loutish behavior at the FDIC, who it's not like they've had a lot to do in the last 18 months, right? Not like we've had some major bank failures
Well, to
or
be
anything.
fair, this all occurred before the bank failures. So when you don't have like a bunch of bank failures and you're not worried about the
I
regional
swear to
banking
God,
system,
we've talked about this
what are
before.
these guys doing?
I'm going to look.
Well, so this is the thing.
We've talked about strippers. We've talked about
not just
hookers.
So this is the thing I was thinking. I
Every
think this can
episode.
be used. I think that this is actually a secret plant by them. So I think what's really happening is the SEC kind of sounds sexy, right? Like you can't get a job on Wall Street, you go work for the SEC, you know you can like end up in a compliance department somewhere.
Is
I mean,
that
it's
sexy?
very sexy.
Not really.
Well, for those of you who aren't watching this, you won't
Depends
see
on
that
where
I'm
you're
I've
smiling.
always worked in the compliance department.
What?
What?
Wait,
Yes.
what? You?
Yes. At yeah.
What do you comply with?
Dude,
I
like
worked in compliance
snapping up
when
the
I was-
support girdles
No,
of the,
when I was at,
octogenarians at the foundation is not compliance. Like
UST,
wearing trousers
I wear-
is not compliance. Right. Well, so where I'm going with this is I think that they secretly had this leaked because I would imagine it's
You mean like a
kind
hedge
of,
fund with good numbers?
Yes, I would imagine that it's quite a hard role to recruit for because it doesn't sound that sexy. Every so often there's these big bank failures and people blame you in some way. And I think they're struggling to recruit and they're like, look, you want a job on fucking 80s Wall Street? Come hang out with us, dude. We're fucking pissed at lunch, strippers in the afternoon. SEC, what are you getting? A little bit of porn? Who cares? Like,
Not anymore.
yeah, not anymore.
Yeah. No,
Sounds
that's
hard.
true. That's maybe this really is about recruiting.
Yeah.
It's true because it's glamorous. We travel,
Yeah.
100 days a year, and when we travel, we drink. Even in the middle of the day, we behave badly. We grab ass. We go to strip clubs. It's true. Like that's. I mean,
Pretty much.
you
Can't
even,
get fired, it
you,
seems.
You can't even find hedge funds that are that fun to work at.
Well, ever since OD closed down, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, at least U.S. hedge funds.
And to be fair, everything you just described, that was just before lunch at OD, I think. Allegedly.
I think lunch was kind of the line that he crossed. Now I don't know whether he took an early lunch or a late lunch, but I think from what I read, right, there was a real separation between pre-lunch, which is basically just him nursing hangover,
sobering up.
and then like lunch, where tomorrow's hangover begins, and everything that flows from that.
Wow.
So yeah, look, if you were at Chris Benodi's firm and you're unemployable at the moment, you know where you can get a gig.
There you go. Absolutely.
Did we cover everything?
Federal government's best. There's germs in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing news.
Could be it.
All right. Well, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah.
So,
That's a wrap.
so my
for
parting
us.
my parting advice to general public: don't go to space. Parting advice
Hell
to Freddy:
no.
get some new boots.
Krista, nice fucking t-shirt.
Yeah, Krista, keep wearing that T-shirt. Show all your friends, but only talk about strategy, unless you can establish that they're qualified purchasers with net worths of over $5 million. Past performance does not guarantee future results.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.